In the year 2147, humanity had grown used to silence in the vastness of space. For decades, powerful telescopes and deep space probes scored the stars for signs of life, but all they found were empty voids and distant suns burning coldly in the darkness. That changed one quiet evening when a faint rhythmic pulse echoed through the cosmos, reaching Earth's most advanced observatory nestled in the Atacama Desert. Dr. Ilara Voss was the first to notice it. A brilliant astrophysicist with a reputation for seeing patterns where others saw chaos, she sat hunched over her monitor, staring at the data streaming in from the celestial eye, a telescope array floating beyond the moon's orbit. The signal wasn't random noise. It repeated every 17 seconds, like a heartbeat calling out across the universe. It was too precise, too deliberate, to be natural. Could this be? She whispered to herself, her voice trembling with excitement and disbelief. She ran simulations, cross-checked frequencies, and even rebooted the system twice to rule out errors. But the signal remained constant, pulsing steadily as if waiting for someone to answer. Word spread quickly among the team at the observatory. By morning, the entire facility buzzed with activity. Engineers double-checked equipment, while linguists debated whether the signal could contain language or code. After hours of analysis, Dr. Voss pieced together fragments of what appeared to be coordinates embedded within the transmission. They pointed to a star system on the far edge of the Milky Way, a red giant surrounded by dying planets. "This isn't just a signal," Dr. Voss told her colleagues during an emergency meeting. "It's a cry for help." The room fell silent. Humanity had dreamed of finding intelligent life for centuries, but now that the possibility loomed before them, fear crept in alongside wonder. What if the signal came from hostile beings? What if responding put Earth in danger? Debates raged within the United Nations Space Council, which governed Earth's interstellar initiatives. Some argued caution, urging further study before taking action. Others dismissed the signal as a fluke, unworthy of attention. But Dr. Voss refused to let doubt win. Her father had once taught her that kindness was the greatest strength a species could possess. He'd been a humanitarian worker, traveling to war-torn regions to rebuild communities shattered by conflict. Though he passed away years ago, his lessons stayed with her. If there was even a chance another civilization needed help, she believed humanity had a moral duty to respond. "We've spent generations looking outward, searching for meaning in the stars," she argued passionately at a council hearing. "Now we have proof we're not alone, and they're asking for our help. How can we turn away?" Her words struck a chord. Reluctantly, the council agreed to send a probe to investigate. Equipped with cameras, sensors, and advanced AI capable of analyzing alien environments, the probe launched into the void, carrying humanity's hopes and fears with it. Months later, the images returned. They showed a planet bathed in fiery hues, its surface scarred by storms and quakes. Cities lay in ruins, their towering spires crumbling under skies choked with ash. And yet, amidst the devastation, lights flickered, signs of life clinging stubbornly to existence. Dr. Voss stared at the screen, her heart pounding. These weren't just ruins. They were evidence of a civilization fighting against impossible odds. Whatever awaited humanity in the depths of space, one thing was clear. The journey ahead would test everything they believed about themselves and each other. The discovery of the alien civilization sent shockwaves across Earth. News outlets broadcast images of the crumbling cities and flickering lights on the dying planet, sparking both awe and fear. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but no one imagined it would come under such dire circumstances. The United Nations Space Council convened an emergency session to decide their next move. While some argued for caution, fearing the unknown intentions of the aliens, Dr. Ilara Voss insisted that humanity couldn't ignore a species in need. "We've been given a chance to show what we're capable of," she said during the meeting. "If we turn away now, we'll be no better than those who refuse to help others in times of crisis." Her plea resonated with many, and after days of debate, The Council authorized a risky yet historic mission: direct communication with the alien civilization. Using advanced translation algorithms developed by linguists and AI experts, the team aboard the Celestial Eye began broadcasting messages back to the mysterious planet. They started simple, mathematical sequences, followed by basic greetings encoded in binary code. Each transmission ended with a single phrase repeated in multiple human languages. "We hear you. We are here." Weeks passed without a response. Doubts grew louder among skeptics, who claimed the effort was futile. But then, late one night, something extraordinary happened. The probe station near the alien world detected a reply, a signal more complex than anything received before. It pulsed rhythmically, carrying patterns that matched the structure of human language. Excitement rippled through the observatory as scientists worked tirelessly to decode the message. When the translation finally came through, it stunned everyone. The aliens identified themselves as the Vailith, a once thriving species now struggling to survive on their dying homeworld, Valeris. Their tone was desperate yet measured, filled with a mix of curiosity and despair. Through fragmented sentences, they explained how their star had begun collapsing centuries ago, triggering environmental disasters that overwhelmed their ability to adapt. Despite their advanced technology, they admitted failure, both in preventing the catastrophe and finding a solution. Dr. Voss felt a pang of sadness as she read the translated text. She imagined entire generations of Vailith watching their world crumble, powerless to stop it. Yet there was also hope in their words. They expressed gratitude for humanity's efforts to reach out, calling it a light in the darkness. For the first time, they asked questions about Earth and its people, seeking to understand the beings who had answered their call. Encouraged by this breakthrough, the Council approved a bolder step, sending a crewed spacecraft to establish direct contact. Named the Solace, the vessel was equipped with cutting-edge communication tools, medical supplies, and scientific instruments designed to aid civilizations in crisis. Dr. Voss volunteered to lead the mission, knowing her expertise in interstellar diplomacy would be crucial. Joining her were engineers, biologists, and cultural specialists, all united by a shared goal of helping the Vailith. As the Solace prepared for launch, debates raged on Earth. Some questioned whether humanity should risk its resources to save another species, especially when so many problems plagued their own planet. Others saw this as an opportunity to redefine humanity's role in the universe, not as conquerors or explorers, but as compassionate allies. On the day of departure, millions watched as the sleek silver ship ascended into the sky, leaving Earth behind. Inside, Dr. Voss stared out the viewport, her mind racing with possibilities. What awaited them on Valeris? Would the Vailith welcome them, or would fear and mistrust create barriers? One thing was certain: this mission would test not only humanity's ingenuity but also its capacity for kindness. For the first time in history, two civilizations stood on the brink of connection. And though the road ahead was uncertain, Dr. Voss clung to the belief that even in the face of despair, hope could bridge the widest gaps. After months of travel through the vast emptiness of space, the Solace finally arrived at Valeris. The crew gazed in stunned silence as the planet came into view, a hauntingly beautiful world bathed in fiery hues of orange and red. Towering storm clouds churned across its surface, while rivers of molten rock snaked through fractured landscapes. Despite the devastation, faint glimmers of light flickered from beneath the surface, evidence that life still clung to existence. Dr. Ilara Voss felt a mix of awe and dread as she stepped onto the bridge of the Solace. She had spent countless hours preparing for this moment, but nothing could have fully prepared her for the reality of what lay before them. This was no thriving civilization. It was a society on the brink of collapse, fighting against impossible odds just to survive another day. The first order of business was establishing communication. Using the advanced translation algorithms developed back on Earth, the crew broadcast a message to the Vailith: "We've come to help." Moments later, A response crackled through the ship's speakers. It was hesitant yet warm, filled with gratitude tinged with disbelief. The Valith invited the humans to land near one of their underground cities, where they could meet face to face, or rather, face to alien. As the Solace descended toward the designated coordinates, the crew braced themselves for the unknown. When the hatch opened, they were greeted by a delegation of Valith, standing nearly 8 feet tall. Their slender frames shimmered with iridescent scales that reflected the dim light filtering down from above. Their large, almond-shaped eyes glowed softly, exuding both intelligence and wariness. Though physically alien, there was something undeniably human about their expressions, hope mingled with desperation. Kalthar, an elder among the Valith, stepped forward to greet the humans. His voice resonated deeply when translated, carrying the weight of centuries of wisdom and regret. He thanked the crew for coming, explaining how his people had once been masters of engineering and science, capable of reshaping worlds. But arrogance and greed had blinded them, leading to environmental disasters that spiraled out of control. Now, he said, they lived as shadows of their former selves, scavenging resources from a dying planet. Dr. Voss listened intently, moved by Kalthar's honesty. She saw parallels between the Valith's plight and humanity's own struggles with climate change and resource depletion. If Earth didn't learn from their mistakes, she realized, it could one day face a similar fate. Over the next few days, the humans and Valith worked together to share knowledge. The crew brought food, medical supplies, and tools to aid the struggling population. In return, the Valith offered insights into technologies far beyond anything humanity had achieved. Yet tensions simmered beneath the surface. Some members of the Solace questioned whether helping the Valith was worth risking Earth's limited resources. Others worried about cultural contamination or unintended consequences of interfering with another species' development. Despite these doubts, moments of connection began to emerge. During a tour of the underground city, Dr. Voss marveled at the intricate carvings adorning the walls, artwork depicting the Valith's history, from their golden age to their current struggles. Kalthar explained that art was one of the few things keeping his people grounded during these dark times. Inspired, Dr. Voss shared stories of human resilience, describing how communities on Earth rebuilt after natural disasters or conflicts. For the first time, Kalthar smiled, a gesture that transcended species and forged a fragile bond between them. But challenges loomed ahead. As the initial excitement of first contact faded, harsh realities set in. The storms raging outside grew fiercer, threatening the stability of the underground shelters. Supplies brought by the Solace were running low, and repairing the damaged infrastructure required materials the crew didn't have. Worst of all, some Valith remained skeptical of humanity's intentions, fearing they might exploit their weakened state. Still, amidst the chaos, seeds of cooperation took root. Both species recognized that survival depended not on division but unity. As Dr. Voss looked around at the faces of her crew and their newfound allies, she allowed herself a small spark of hope. Together, they might find a way to pull Valorous back from the brink, but only if they trusted each other enough to try. As the days turned into weeks, the crew of the Solace and their Valith hosts worked tirelessly to understand the root cause of Valorous decline. The planet's surface was a wasteland of boiling oceans, toxic storms, and crumbling cities, a grim testament to centuries of environmental neglect. But beneath the devastation lay clues that hinted at both the Valith's ingenuity and their downfall. Dr. Ilara Voss led a team of human scientists alongside Kalthar and his brightest engineers. Together, they ventured into abandoned research facilities buried deep within the planet's crust. These structures were marvels of alien engineering, filled with towering machines and glowing conduits that pulsed faintly even after years of disuse. As they sifted through data logs and schematics, a disturbing picture began to emerge. Centuries ago, the Valith had embarked on an ambitious project to harness the energy of their red giant star. They built vast solar collectors orbiting the sun, designed to channel power back to Valeris for unlimited energy. At first, the plan seemed flawless, a solution to fuel their growing civilization without relying on finite resources. But over time, greed and hubris corrupted their vision. Instead of using the energy sustainably, they pushed the system beyond its limits, destabilizing the star itself. Calthor explained how warnings from early scientists had been ignored. "We thought we could control nature," he said bitterly, his glowing eyes dimmed by regret. "But nature always finds a way to balance itself." The consequences were catastrophic. The star's instability triggered massive solar flares that scorched Valeris' atmosphere, stripping away its protective layers. Acidic rains poured down, eroding landscapes and poisoning water supplies. Entire ecosystems collapsed, forcing the Valeth underground to escape the harsh conditions above. Over generations, their once thriving cities became tombs, and their population dwindled to a fraction of what it once was. For Dr. Voss, the story hit painfully close to home. She couldn't help but draw parallels between the Valeth's mistakes and humanity's own struggles with climate change. Earth had narrowly avoided similar disasters thanks to global cooperation and technological innovation, but only after decades of denial and conflict. Seeing the ruins of Valeris served as a stark reminder of what could happen if humanity failed to learn from its past. Despite the grim revelations, hope remained. Human engineers proposed a bold solution, constructing a network of solar shields around the dying star to stabilize its energy output. Combined with atmospheric stabilizers on Valeris, this plan could buy enough time for the planet to heal. However, the scale of the project was daunting. It required materials and expertise far beyond what the Solace carried. Even worse, time was running out. The star showed signs of another massive flare that could devastate the planet entirely. Tensions rose among the crew as doubts surfaced. Some argued the mission was too risky, pointing out that failure could doom both species. Others questioned whether Earth should invest so much in saving a civilization whose actions had brought them to ruin. Dr. Voss listened to these concerns but refused to give up. "If we abandon them now," she said firmly during a heated meeting, "we're no better than those who turned a blind eye to suffering back on Earth." Her words struck a chord. Slowly, the team rallied around the idea of working together, not just to save Valeris, but to prove that compassion and ingenuity could overcome even the greatest challenges. Back in the underground city, Calthar watched the humans with a mixture of admiration and sorrow. He knew the odds were against them, yet he also saw something remarkable. Two species, separated by light years in biology, united by a shared determination to survive. For the first time in centuries, he allowed himself to believe that redemption might still be possible, not just for his people, but for all intelligent life in the universe. With renewed resolve, the humans and Valeth set to work, pooling their knowledge and resources. Every calculation, every blueprint, every experiment brought them closer to a solution. But as the storms outside grew fiercer and the star's pulse quickened, one question loomed large. Would they finish in time? Back on Earth, news of the Valeth's plight spread like wildfire. Images of their dying planet and stories of their desperate struggle captured the attention of billions. For the first time in history, humanity faced a decision that transcended borders, politics, and self-interest. Whether to invest its resources, already stretched thin by global challenges, to save an alien civilization. The debate raged across every corner of the globe. In bustling cities, quiet villages, and online forums, people argued passionately about what should be done. Some saw the mission as an opportunity for humanity to redefine itself, not just as survivors, but as compassionate stewards of life. Others viewed it as reckless, insisting Earth had enough problems without taking on someone else's. Corporate leaders, fearful of economic losses, lobbied governments to halt further aid, claiming the cost would cripple industries still recovering from decades of environmental crisis. But amidst the noise, something unexpected happened. Ordinary citizens began organizing grassroots movements to support the Valeth. From school children raising funds through bake sales to engineers volunteering their expertise, people found ways to contribute. Artists painted murals depicting humans and Vailith working together, while musicians composed songs celebrating unity across species. Social media campaigns urged world leaders to act, using hashtags like #HopeForValeris and #TogetherWeSurvive. Dr. Ilara Voss became the face of this movement. Her impassioned speeches during live broadcasts resonated deeply with audiences worldwide. "This is not just about saving the Vailith," she said during one address. "It's about proving that kindness has no limits, not even the stars themselves." Inspired by her words, nations began pooling resources. Factories retooled to produce materials needed for the Solar Shield project, while space agencies launched additional supply ships carrying tools, fuel, and advanced technology. Even former skeptics joined the effort, recognizing that helping the Vailith might also yield breakthroughs benefiting Earth. However, not everyone shared this vision. A shadowy coalition of corporations, calling themselves the Unity Front, launched covert operations to sabotage the mission. They hacked into supply routes, tampering with shipments destined for Valeris. One ship exploded mid-transit, killing dozens of crew members and destroying vital equipment. The attack sent shockwaves through the international community, sparking outrage and calls for justice. Despite these setbacks, humanity refused to back down. When news of the sabotage broke, public fury turned against the Unity Front. Protesters gathered outside corporate headquarters, demanding accountability. Governments enacted emergency measures to protect future missions, ensuring no single entity could derail the effort again. On Valeris, the human crew felt the weight of these developments keenly. Supplies were running dangerously low, and morale wavered as storms intensified above ground. Yet the outpouring of support from Earth reignited their determination. Dr. Voss shared updates with Kalthar, showing him videos of protests, fundraisers, and volunteers working around the clock. The elder Vailith was moved to tears, his glowing eyes shimmering with gratitude. "This is why we reached out," he said softly, "not because we wanted salvation, but because we hoped there was still goodness left in the universe." In response to Earth's solidarity, the Vailith made sacrifices of their own. Entire communities donated food and energy reserves to keep the human crew going, knowing it meant risking their own survival. Engineers worked non-stop alongside their human counterparts, sharing knowledge and ideas that accelerated progress on the solar shield designs. As the first components of the shield began construction, both species realized they were building more than just a solution to a planetary crisis. They were forging a bond stronger than fear or greed. But the star's instability continued to worsen, sending tremors through the ground and forcing everyone to confront a sobering truth. Time was running out faster than anyone had anticipated. With each passing day, the stakes grew higher. Lives hung in the balance, not just those of the Vailith, but of everyone who dared to believe that compassion could light the way forward, even in the darkest corners of the cosmos. The construction of the solar shield became a race against time, with every moment counting down to the inevitable collapse of Valeris star. The human crew and the Vailith worked side by side in underground facilities, their combined efforts fueled by desperation and determination. Yet progress was agonizingly slow, hampered by harsh conditions, dwindling resources, and the ever-present threat of disaster. Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the heart of the operation, her hands stained with grease and her face streaked with exhaustion. She coordinated teams of engineers, scientists, and laborers from both species, ensuring that each piece of the massive project fit together seamlessly. Despite her fatigue, she refused to rest, knowing that even a single mistake could doom the entire mission. Her resolve inspired those around her, but it also masked the toll the work was taking on her body and mind. Above ground, the storms raged with increasing fury. Acidic winds scoured the surface, corroding equipment and forcing workers to take shelter more frequently. One day, during a critical phase of assembly, a sudden surge of toxic rain forced an emergency evacuation. A young engineer named Ria Patel volunteered to stay behind, risking her life to repair a damaged relay station that connected power grids to the shield's framework. Armed with little more than protective gear and sheer willpower, she braved the storm, crawling through flooded tunnels to reach the malfunctioning unit. Back in the control room, Dr. Voss watched anxiously as Ria's vitals flickered on the monitors. When the signal stabilized moments later, cheers erupted among the crew. Ria had succeeded, but not without cost. She returned to the facility pale and trembling, her suit cracked and leaking. Though shaken, she smiled weakly when Dr. Voss thanked her. "It's worth it," Ria said simply. "If we can save them, then everything we're doing matters." Moments like these became common as the project neared completion. Sacrifices were made daily, not just by humans, but by the Vailith as well. Calthar, who had initially hoped to lead his people to safety aboard evacuation ships, chose instead to remain on Valeris. He insisted his presence was needed to guide the final stages of the shield's construction. "I am old," he told Dr. Voss one evening as they reviewed schematics together. "My place is here, helping my people rebuild or die trying." His decision resonated deeply with the others. Across the planet, stories of heroism emerged. A Vailith medic who stayed awake for days treating injured workers, a human technician who dismantled his own quarters to salvage parts for the shield, and countless unnamed individuals who gave what little they had to keep the effort alive. These acts of bravery forged a bond between the two species, transcending language and biology. They weren't just collaborators anymore. They were allies, united by a shared purpose. Yet challenges remained. Supplies continued to dwindle, forcing difficult choices about rationing food and energy. Morale wavered as some began to doubt whether the shield would be completed in time. Arguments broke out over priorities, with tempers flaring under the strain of constant pressure. It was during one such dispute that Dr. Voss intervened, reminding everyone of why they had come this far. "We didn't travel billions of miles to give up now," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. "Every bolt we tighten, every wire we connect, it's bringing us closer to saving lives. If we stop believing, then we've already lost." Her words reignited the team's focus, pushing them to push harder despite the odds. Slowly but surely, the solar shield began to take shape, a colossal lattice of reflective panels designed to deflect the star's deadly flares and stabilize its energy output. As the final pieces clicked into place, hope flickered like a flame in the darkness. But the star showed no mercy. Its pulse quickened, sending tremors rippling across the planet. Everyone knew the worst was yet to come. Still, as they gazed at the towering structure shimmering faintly in the dim light, they allowed themselves a fragile sense of pride. Against all odds, they had built something extraordinary, a testament to perseverance, sacrifice, and the unyielding belief that even in chaos, hope could endure. As the solar shield neared completion, a shadow fell over the fragile alliance between humans and Vailith. Not everyone on Valeris welcomed humanity's intervention. A faction of Vailith, calling themselves the Sovereigns, emerged from the underground cities, their voices echoing through crowded chambers and dimly lit tunnels. They argued that accepting help from outsiders would erase what little remained of Vailith culture, replacing it with human values and technology. Calthar listened to their protests during an emergency council meeting held deep beneath the planet's surface. The Sovereign's leader, a fiery young Vailith named Silvera, stood tall, her iridescent scales shimmering with defiance. "We are not children to be saved," she declared, her voice sharp as a blade. "This shield is not salvation, it is submission. If we rely on humans, we abandon our identity forever." Her words struck a chord among some of the Vailith, particularly the younger generation who had grown up knowing only ruin and despair. To them, the shield represented dependence rather than hope. Tensions simmered as debates grew heated, threatening to fracture the unity that had sustained the project thus far. Dr. Ilara Voss watched silently from the sidelines, her heart sinking as divisions widened. She understood the Sovereign's fears. After all, Earth's history was riddled with examples of colonization and cultural erasure, but she also knew the stakes. Without the solar shield, Valoris would succumb to its dying star, leaving no culture left to preserve. When Kelthar called for calm, urging patience and dialogue, Selvera stormed out of the chamber, vowing to stop the project at any cost. That night, chaos erupted. Explosions rocked the construction site, sending workers scrambling for cover. Key components of the shield were sabotaged, plunging the operation into disarray. Panic spread as accusations flew. Some blamed the sovereigns outright, while others feared internal betrayal within the human crew. Dr. Voss worked tirelessly alongside Kelthar to restore order, but trust began to crumble under the weight of suspicion. The following day, Selvera addressed a massive crowd gathered in one of the largest underground halls. Her fiery speech painted humanity as opportunists seeking to exploit the Valeth's weakness. "They come bearing gifts," she proclaimed, "but they will take everything in return. Our land, our knowledge, our very souls." Her rhetoric ignited anger and fear, turning peaceful protests into violent clashes. Human engineers found themselves cornered by hostile mobs, forcing the Solace crew to retreat to safer zones. Even among the humans, tempers flared as frustration mounted. Some argued they should abandon the mission entirely, leaving the Valeth to face their fate alone. But Dr. Voss refused to give up. She believed the sovereign's actions stemmed not from malice, but from pain, a desperate attempt to cling to dignity in the face of extinction. Determined to bridge the divide, she sought out Selvera personally, venturing into the most volatile areas of the underground city despite warnings from her team. When she finally confronted the young leader, the air crackled with tension. Selvera glared at her, distrust etched into every line of her shimmering face. "Why do you care?" she demanded. "What do you gain by helping us?" Dr. Voss hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I don't stand to gain anything," she replied softly. "But I've seen what happens when fear drives decisions, on my own world. And now here. You're fighting to protect your people's legacy, and I respect that. But if this shield fails, there won't be a legacy left to protect." For a moment, Selvera said nothing, her glowing eyes searching Dr. Voss's face for sincerity. Then, slowly, her expression softened. "Prove it," she said at last. "Show me you're not trying to replace us. You're trying to save us." With those words, a fragile truce began to form. Dr. Voss worked alongside Selvera to incorporate Valeth traditions into the shield's design, ensuring the project honored their culture rather than overshadowing it. It wasn't easy. Mistrust lingered, and repairs took longer than expected, but progress resumed. Yet time was slipping away. The star's pulse quickened, its energy surges growing more erratic. As the final pieces of the shield came together, everyone knew the true test lay ahead. Could they overcome betrayal and fear in time to save Valoris, or would division destroy them all? The star's erratic behavior reached a breaking point, its energy pulses growing wilder by the hour. Tremors shook Valoris, sending fissures snaking across the underground cities and collapsing tunnels that had stood for centuries. The final phase of the solar shield's activation loomed, but the damage from the sovereign's sabotage still lingered, leaving critical systems unstable. Every second counted, and failure was no longer an option. Dr. Ilara Voss gathered the human crew and key Valeth leaders in the central command center, a cavernous chamber illuminated by glowing panels and holographic displays. The atmosphere was tense, heavy with exhaustion and fear. Kelthar, his once pristine scales dulled by weeks of relentless work, stood beside her, his presence a steadying force. Selvera, though hesitant, joined them as well, her earlier defiance tempered by guilt over the destruction she had caused. "We're running out of time," Dr. Voss said, her voice firm despite the fatigue etched into her face. "If we don't stabilize the star now, nothing else will matter. But activating the shield isn't enough. We need to siphon excess energy away from the planet before it overwhelms us." The plan was risky, requiring a direct interface with the star's fluctuating core. A specially designed probe would be launched into the heart of the red giant, drawing off volatile energy and channeling it harmlessly into space. The procedure demanded precision timing and manual oversight, meaning someone would have to stay aboard the probe during the operation, a suicide mission if anything went wrong. Silence filled the room as the weight of the decision settled over everyone. Finally, Calthar stepped forward, his glowing eyes resolute. "I will lead this effort," he declared. "My life has been spent guiding my people through darkness. If I can give them one last chance at light, then so be it." Dr. Voss protested immediately. "Calthar, you've already sacrificed so much. There must be another way." "There isn't," he interrupted gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "This is not just about survival. It's about legacy. Let me do this for my people. For all of us." His words silenced further objections, though they left a deep ache in the hearts of those who heard them. Scifi, tears shimmering in her eyes, bowed her head in respect. "You honor us," she whispered. "And I am sorry for doubting you." With Calthar's decision made, the team worked feverishly to prepare the probe. Engineers reinforced its shielding, while scientists fine-tuned its energy siphoning mechanisms. Dr. Voss stayed by Calthar's side throughout, helping him familiarize himself with the controls and ensuring he understood every step of the process. Despite their differences, a profound bond had formed between them, one forged in shared struggle and mutual respect. As the probe launched toward the star, the entire population of Valeris watched anxiously. Screens flickered with live feeds of the operation, showing Calthar calmly navigating the vessel through waves of searing plasma. His voice remained steady as he relayed updates back to the command center, even as alarms blared and warning lights flashed around him. Back on the planet, emotions ran high. Humans and Valeth alike held their breath, praying for success. When the probe finally locked onto the star's core and began siphoning energy, cheers erupted. But they were short-lived. A sudden surge threatened to overwhelm the system, forcing Calthar to make split-second adjustments. "I won't let you down," he said softly, his voice crackling over the comms. Then, with one final act of bravery, he diverted power to the shield, stabilizing it just as the star unleashed a massive flare. The flare dissipated harmlessly into space, sparing Valeris from destruction. But when the transmission cut off moments later, silence fell over the command center. Calthar's sacrifice had bought them precious time, but at a cost no one could ignore. Dr. Voss clenched her fists, tears streaming down her face. Yet, amidst the grief, there was resolve. Calthar had given everything to ensure his people's survival, and now it was up to them to honor his memory by finishing what he started. The star's flare subsided, leaving behind an eerie calm that stretched across Valeris. For a moment, it felt as though the universe itself was holding its breath. In the command center, humans and Valeth stood frozen, their eyes glued to the monitors displaying the solar shield's status. The structure shimmered faintly in orbit, deflecting waves of energy that had once threatened to consume the planet. It was working, but at what cost? Dr. Ilara Voss stared at the blank screen where Calthar's transmission had ended. Her hands trembled as she clenched them into fists, fighting back tears. She wanted to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it all. But instead, she forced herself to focus. There was no time for grief yet. The battle wasn't over. The shield had stabilized the immediate threat, but the planet's atmosphere was still fragile, its ecosystems hanging by a thread. Every second counted. "Calthar gave us this chance," she said, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "We can't waste it." Her words galvanized the room. Engineers scrambled to assess the shield's integrity, while biologists worked on plans to restore Valeris' damaged environment. Scifi, who had watched Calthar's final moments with quiet reverence, stepped forward. Her earlier defiance was gone, replaced by determination. "He trusted us to finish this," she said firmly. "Let's prove him right." The next hours were a blur of activity. Teams ventured above ground to deploy atmospheric stabilizers, massive machines designed to filter toxins and replenish oxygen levels. Human and Violet workers labored side by side, their movements synchronized despite differences in physiology. They braved acidic winds and crumbling landscapes, driven by the knowledge that every effort brought them closer to saving the planet and honoring Calthar's sacrifice. Back in the underground cities, makeshift memorials sprang up to honor those who had lost their lives during the mission. Glowing crystals were arranged in patterns resembling Calthar's iridescent scales, symbolizing both his wisdom and his courage. Dr. Voss visited one such memorial late at night, finding solace in the soft hum of voices chanting prayers in the Violet language. Though she couldn't understand the words, their meaning transcended barriers. Gratitude, remembrance, hope. Progress came slowly but surely. Atmospheric readings began to improve, showing slight increases in oxygen levels and reductions in toxic compounds. Rivers that had boiled dry for centuries started to flow again, fed by purified water pumped from deep underground reservoirs. Faint green shoots emerged from barren soil, a sign that life could return if given a chance. But challenges remained. Supplies dwindled further, forcing rationing measures that tested everyone's patience. Some Valeth grew restless, questioning whether they should abandon the surface entirely and retreat deeper underground. Scifi countered these doubts with fiery speeches, reminding her people of how far they'd come and how close they were to victory. Then, just as hope seemed within reach, disaster struck again. A massive quake shook the planet, destabilizing part of the shield's framework. If left unchecked, the entire structure could collapse, undoing weeks of painstaking work. Without hesitation, Dr. Voss led a team to repair the damage, venturing into the heart of the storm to reinforce weakened sections. Lightning crackled around them, illuminating their weary faces as they fought against exhaustion and fear. When the repairs were complete, the crew returned to the command center, battered but triumphant. The shield held firm, its reflective panels gleaming like armor against the star's fury. Cheers erupted among the humans and Valeth, their voices blending in a chorus of relief and joy. Yet amidst the celebration, Dr. Voss paused, looking out at the horizon where the first rays of dawn pierced through the toxic haze. Calthar's last words echoed in her mind. "I won't let you down." He hadn't, and neither had they. Together, they had defied impossible odds, proving that even in the face of despair, unity and perseverance could light the way forward. For the first time in years, Valoris began to heal, not just its land, but its people. And those scars would remain. So too would the lessons learned. That survival required more than technology or strength. It required trust, compassion, and the unshakable belief that even in the darkest times, hope could prevail. Years passed, and Valoris transformed in ways no one had dared to imagine. The once barren planet now teemed with life, its skies clearer, its rivers flowing freely, and its soil fertile enough to support new growth. Greenery spread across the surface, reclaiming land that had been scorched and poisoned for centuries. Birds, bioengineered hybrids of Earth's avians and native Valeth species, soared overhead, their songs a testament to resilience and renewal. For the Valeth, this rebirth was more than physical, it was cultural. Inspired by humanity's compassion and ingenuity, they adopted sustainable practices that honored their history while embracing a brighter future. Artisans crafted murals depicting the alliance between humans and Valeth, blending alien symbols with human designs to create something entirely new. Schools taught lessons not only about science, but also about unity, ensuring future generations would remember how two species came together to defy extinction. Dr. Ilara Voss became a legend on both worlds. Her name was spoken with reverence among the Valeth, who credited her unwavering determination with saving their civilization. On Earth, she became a symbol of hope, a reminder that humanity could rise above its flaws to help others in need. Documentaries chronicled the mission, showing footage of Calthar's sacrifice, the tireless work of countless individuals, and the eventual triumph over despair. Children grew up dreaming of exploring the stars, inspired by stories of cooperation and courage. The bond between Earth and Valeris deepened over time. Trade routes opened, exchanging goods, knowledge, and ideas. Valith engineers shared advanced technologies that revolutionized energy production on Earth, while human agricultural methods helped restore Valeris ecosystems. Cultural exchanges flourished, with festivals celebrating the shared heritage of both species. For the first time, humanity saw itself not as an isolated inhabitant of one planet, but as part of a larger cosmic community. Yet the scars of the past were never forgotten. Memorials dedicated to Califar and other fallen heroes stood tall on both worlds, serving as reminders of the cost of survival. Dr. Voss often visited these sites during her visits to Valeris, finding comfort in the quiet dignity of the tributes. She knew Calfar's legacy lived on, not just in monuments, but in the thriving world he had given everything to protect. One evening, as she stood beneath Valeris' star-filled sky, Silvera approached her. Now a leader among her people, Silvera carried herself with the same fiery determination that had once fueled her defiance, but tempered now by wisdom gained through hardship. "You've changed us," she said softly, her glowing eyes reflecting gratitude. "And we've changed you." Dr. Voss smiled, looking out at the horizon, where lights from rebuilt cities twinkled like constellations. "We've changed each other," she replied. "That's what makes this so special." As humanity continued its journey into the stars, the lessons of Valeris guided every step. Conflicts arose, as they always did, but the memory of collaboration and sacrifice served as a beacon, reminding everyone of what was possible when fear gave way to trust. The alliance forged in crisis paved the way for greater exploration and understanding, proving that even in the vastness of space, connection could bridge the widest gaps. In the end, the story of Valeris wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. It showed that kindness, perseverance, and unity could overcome even the darkest moments. And as long as those values endured, neither humanity nor the Valith would ever face the void alone again.